Hi, Connie.
Hey, Scotty, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. It's been a long time. I think maybe like 3 days.
Yeah, yes, it has.
Yeah. So tell everybody where we were last week.
We were in Seattle. Well, we were actually outside of Seattle on a racetrack together on a gravel track, a rally track, actually, in the Mustang Mach-E Rally Edition.
What did you think?
It was so much fun. It was so much fun. I've never done that before, gravel circuit, and being with you, and we had another female performance driver, a rally racer with us in the car, and it was just amazing. It was so much fun. And who knew an electric car could be that much fun on a gravel track?
Yeah, they really have engineered it for rally racing. And they raced it in the Rebel Rally last year, which I'm assuming it took a few things like some skid plates, maybe some off-road all-terrain tires and that kind of thing. But electric cars and the Mustang Mach-E kind of qualifies as an SUV. They call it an SUV, even though I would really put it more in the car category. But they're so much more capable than people think they are. And so the Mustang Mach-E engineers decided to lean in on that and give it all the capabilities it needed for off-road rally racing, and then specifically picking, because what they could have done, like an extra lift and that kind of thing. It made it like rock crawlable, give it like Raptor kind of thing, but that they decided to go rally, I think really speaks to the DNA of the car. And it was fun. It was really fun. But I've never had a bad day on the track, so can't say that. Yeah, I can't say that that I have. And any manufacturer that will put their car on a track speaks to what they believe about their car. They believe that in the engineering, they believe in the suspension and the steering and and all of the power and the instant power, that torque. They believe that it's capable. So if they're willing to put it on a track, I'm willing to trust them and drive it.
100%. And speaking of racetracks, our guest today that I had the very pleasure of talking with is Demi Chalkias, and I met her at the track.
You did? Where did you meet her?
I met her at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Toronto, just outside of the city, actually, at a Hyundai N event. And you, speaking of manufacturers willing to put their cars on track, it was the Kona N and the Elantra N. This is going back a couple of years ago, but that's where I met Demi, and she was my instructor and my drive partner on the track. And so she instructed me, and she was so inspiring. I just loved her energy. She is full of life, and she is such a great driver and such a great instructor. So that was a couple of years ago, before we even started this podcast. But I remember hopping in the car with her, and one of the very first things I said to her was, I need to interview you. Just so you know, I just don't want to forget that. I said, so we need to exchange emails and we will talk soon. And then it took a while, obviously.
That's great though. And I love when a manufacturer brings female pro drivers to their events and lets us get in the car with women. And it might be humbling to some of the guys there, because they idolize these male drivers, and they want to be like these male drivers. And so it's hard to find a guy who says, oh, I want to be just like her. He might say that with a little jealousy, but not with aspiration. So, or I would say rarely with aspiration. But so I think it really speaks a lot to manufacturers wanting to appeal to women, and allowing women like Demi to develop a career. So with that, let's get to your interview with Demi Chalkias.
Hi, Demi. How are you?
I'm good, Connie. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's so great to finally chat. We've been emailing back and forth for ages. I met you on the racetrack in Ontario at the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park just outside of Toronto, at a Hyundai N drive event where I was driving the new Elantra N and the new Kona N back a couple of summers ago when they were new. And you were my drive instructor, seatmate, whatever you want to call it. And You were amazing. So you guys, Demi is a race car driver, and she was being part of the lead drivers, pro drivers at an event. And she was the most amazing teacher, guide, mentor, like drive instructor. She was beside me on the track, in the car on the track, telling me when to accelerate, when to brake, that the car could handle it. She'd be like, hold it, Connie, you're doing great. This is the line you're supposed to be on. She was so enthusiastic and so great. Just, I will never forget that experience, Demi. Like, it was so much fun to be in the car with you.
You are so sweet. You were such an incredible student too. You're such a natural behind the wheel. It was easy. It was so easy to sit right seat with you, and you killed it. So thank you for those kind words.
Thank you. It was such a great experience. And I tell people about that experience all the time, because as a non-pro driver, it can be very intimidating to get in a performance car on a racetrack, even if it's not a performance car, but on a racetrack, and like give it your all and like go. And I tell people all the time, like, what an experience it was to have you beside me, because doing a lead follow on a track is very intimidating. You're trying to follow the lines of the driver in front of you. Doing it with somebody on the radio is better, because at least they're, guiding you as you're driving. But having you in the seat beside me was like the best experience ever. And so much fun. So I tell people about that.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so thankful to have been part of that. And it is daunting to be on track for the first time ever, especially a track like Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Like, to choose that as your first track to go on is definitely gutsy, to say the least. It's a very fast track. The consequences are high. Unfortunately, with that track, there's cement walls on either side, but no, you handled it like a pro, and instructing is something that I'm so passionate about, sharing my passion for driving with people like you who have a passion for the automotive and motorsport industry. It's a real treat for me as well. So I always walk away from those days feeling so, I don't know, so happy and excited that I could help share that passion with other people.
Definitely. And I would imagine fulfilling too, because you're coaching and you're guiding and you're mentoring and sharing your knowledge. Like, I think it's amazing. Anyway, I jumped way, way, way far ahead. We're going to take a step back. Demi, tell me, what is your job?
Yeah, so I am a professional race car driver. I race the number 34 Mercedes AMG GT4 with JMF Motorsports. I completed my first season with them in our Canadian series, SCCC with FEL. I placed second in the championship with the Mercedes there. And then I got signed to race full-time professionally in the States with them now in SRO. So full-time racing. I also book professional performance driving gigs as well. Coaching and instructing, like I said, is so passionate to me. So I don't want to lose that. So when I'm home and able to, I still like to keep up with that. But yeah, racing comes first right now in my career, and that's what I do.
That's so wild. That is so wild. So where do you live?
Yeah, so everywhere. I have the home actually right across the street from the DDT track, the development driver track at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Okay.
So I have the home in Bowmanville, and I'm happy to tell people I live there because I rent it out to racing teams. So, but because I travel so much, it's everywhere at this point. And when I'm home, I stay at whatever house is more convenient. So either that be with my dad, my mom, my boyfriend, Connor, who was also at that event. He races Hyundai. So yeah, I'm kind of I'm very much the traveler in the family. I essentially live out of my car, so that's always fun.
Fun, but also challenging, I would think.
Yeah, the travel for me is the hardest part about my career. I'm very much a homebody and a family person, and so time away from the family and just time away out of a routine from home has proved itself to be a challenge. But like anything in life, you find strategies, you find coping mechanisms, and you go to your little mental toolbox. And when you're feeling down or homesick, I have my strategies to help me get over it. And yeah, it's always a work in progress, but you got to do it. It's part of the job.
Yeah. And what would you say, if you don't mind sharing, what would you say is your number one coping mechanism for feeling homesick or maybe anxious about being on the road all the time?
Yeah, so definitely there's a handful of things. I mean, one major thing that we're so lucky to have nowadays is technology and just being able to FaceTime my family when I am missing them. But nutrition and supplements really play a huge role in it as well. What you're putting into your body really affects your mental health and your mental well-being. So I work with a nutritionist, and I have certain remedies that I turn to. And yeah, just getting sleep and trying your best to stay on a regimen. Working out is also really good. Just go and work out and get a good night's sleep and eat well. Everything in life kind of has a basic foundation to feeling good, and it's usually revolves around exercise and eating well and surrounding yourself with good people. So I try my best to do that.
Good for you. And yes, so being a race car driver, I know health and fitness and especially stamina plays a huge role in the success of being behind the wheel and concentrating. What is your exercise regimen like?
Yeah, so it varies from where I'm at. So if I'm away training or racing, I don't work out too much outside of, just being in the car, because that's also a very big workout. Not many people really understand that. It takes a lot to drive a race car fast, and you're usually pretty burnt by the end of the day. However, I do like yoga afterwards, like in the hotel room and so forth. But when I'm home, I do have a pretty good workout routine. I swim a lot. I'm big into swimming. I used to be a triathlete, and yeah, swimming was just something that is very accessible for me and something that I enjoy doing. I also do a lot of weight training with a trainer here at Strength and You. They have Mississauga and Scarborough locations, so weight training and a lot of actually meditation and yoga. And I've actually recently got into Tai Chi, so
Wow.
doing a bit of that as well.
Good for you. That's fantastic. I mean, yeah, you're so busy, and yet to be able to fit all that in is remarkable. And good for you. And where are you right now? Are you at home in Ontario right now? Do you have any pets?
Yes, I do actually. I won't show him right now. I will after. He's just in his litter box. I don't want to embarrass him.
Of course. But I'm curious to see. I got a little sneak peek before we hit recorded, and I want you to show off your cutie. What's his or her name?
Yes, so his name is Champy. I have a Netherland dwarf bunny. I've had bunnies my whole life growing up. I just thought that they were the cutest little pets, and I've been lucky enough to bring him here. I'm currently at my mom's house, and she has a wonderful living area here, and he runs free. So he's a free roam bunny for the most part, and he's potty trained, which a lot of people don't know you can do with rabbits, but he's fully potty trained, so he only goes in his litter box. And they're super cuddly. They need lots of space to run around because they're very active animals. And yeah, I love rabbits. I always have them. I got him after I won the 2020 championship. I told myself if I won championship, I'd get myself a bunny. So hence the name Champy.
That's amazing. I did not know that bunnies could be potty trained and could be like house pets where they were not in a cage. I think that's really, really cool. So I hope we can show him off when he's done.
I will.
How did you get into race car driving? Like, how did that begin?
Yeah, so racing was always something that was in our household. My dad raced cars at a regional and club level. And we always make the joke that my father always wanted a son, and God blessed him with 3 girls, and I was just the last one. So I kind of chose to be it. But we joke around about that, but I actually chose the sport for myself. I was formerly a triathlete, actually. I competed and trained at the national level with the dream of making it to the Olympics. And my determination to make it there unfortunately led me into some unhealthy pathways where I was overtraining and not eating properly. And eventually my body broke down. Rightfully so. I was pushing it way too hard. I was working out 6 to 7 times a day. And just was not filling the caloric intake that was needed to be, working that hard. And so I essentially, for lack of a better term, blew out the left side of my hip. And at 16, they were telling me if I wanted to keep competing, they would have to go in and do a very invasive surgery where they shaved the head of my femur bone down and cleaned up all the other damage I'd done, with no guarantee that my hip bone was going to grow back smooth or not. So I could have potentially had hip issues my whole life. And so I took some time off. And at that point in time, like, an athlete going through any type of injury, it's usually harder mentally than it is physically, because that's how you identify. Like, if I wasn't a triathlete, who was I? And if I wasn't training all day, what do I do? You mean I go to school, come back, and that's it. It was a very weird time for me. And so, you go through these, dips and feeling sorry for yourself. And eventually I just said, you know what? I'm still an athlete. I'm still competitive. I still have so much good to give. What other sport can I do? I'm not useless. And so that's when I started thinking, and I said, you know what? Why not go-karting? And so I had put myself into go-karting and found that there was just a ton of passion for the sport and a decent amount of natural talent. I was on podium quite a bit just at the karting time. And the story after that's a whole roller coaster. I don't know if we have enough time for it, but but yeah, that's basically how I started.
And so you pursued it, which is amazing. Was there a greater number of males versus females at that time too, like in your younger years karting? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There was me and this one other lady, Zoe. And I remember her. She was so vibrant and so incredible. She was a mom that played in a band and loved cars and just wanted to go kart. And I thought she was just the bee's knees. Like, she was so cool. And so it was me and Zoe that were karting at the time. And it was so funny because I vividly remember there was almost like torrential downpour at one of our races, and nobody really wanted to go out, and her and I were like, let's go, let's do it. And so we both went out and ran in the rain, and it was just so cool to just see, two females out there that didn't really care. We were just there to have a good time and to win races and, to do our best. And yeah, when I started racing cars, I was usually the only female. There was another girl, but in a different form of racing, that I started noticing around the track, Megan Gilks, who a lot of people probably know of. She now works as an engineer with the Aston Martin F1 team. And she's done wonders with her racing career. So yeah, there are very few for sure.
Very few. And did you ever face challenges specific to that, like being one of few females in such a male-dominated sport?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked very often, and I always have to try and reflect. And I think in racing, nobody wants to get beat, period, and nobody really wants to get beat by a girl in that environment. And to say that I had, hardships and struggles, I think where the majority of that came was just in having to work a little bit harder for my respect in that field. And I was okay with that. I wasn't there to impress anybody else but myself. I was genuinely curious where I held up in that industry and in that environment. And I was just so happy to be there. I worked so hard to get a race car and to be out there racing, where maybe I was a bit naive to it too. But yeah, it's just natural. Like, I look back on it now, and I remember some comments that were made, and I'm like, well, that was a bit sexist, or that was, a bit had a bit of ill intent behind it. But I didn't care. I didn't care because my results spoke for me, and I won championships, I won races. I think that I was a feared competitor to a point where they were constantly trying to protest my car, saying my roll cage was too thin, and just everything that had to do aside from my driving to try and get me out of contention for championships. And I never let that get me down. And I'm thankful for my parents. They raised us to be very strong. And you have to have a thick head going in there, because it's already an environment filled with testosterone, and you kind of have to just put your head down and work hard and not let things get to your head.
Good for you. Good for you. I love that attitude so much. It's all so true. And did you have any mentors going in being a minority in this male sport? Did you have any female mentors maybe?
Yeah, I wish I had more female mentors in the racing industry. Unfortunately, at the time, there was just nobody tangible to reach out to. And later, so I grew up in the country. I had no internet or cable growing up. And so to be able to hop onto Google and Google, women that were in the sport wasn't exactly available to me at the time. However, when I got into my later teenage years and we moved into town and got internet and stuff like that, I started researching. And that's when you learn about, Michelle Mouton and Lynn St. James and Sabine Schmitz. And she became a huge source of inspiration for me. And one of my now really close friends, Valerie Limoges out of Montreal, she's absolutely incredible. But at the time, no, I didn't have any mentors in the racing industry that were females. However, I had really strong figures in my life when I was in triathlons. Mm-hmm. And so, I tried to find motivation from anywhere I could pull it. And I had mentors eventually that came along that they were male, but they never treated me any differently because I was a female, and I was forever grateful for that. So yeah, I hope to be that for the next upcoming generation of little girls. Like, I want to be that person that they're able to look up to and see on podium and be able to talk to. So try to be what I didn't have.
Yeah. And I love that. It's that visibility of, like, young girls see you and what you're doing, that means they can visualize themselves doing what you're doing. That's representation is so important. I talk about that almost every episode with an engineer, with a race car driver. As females, we need to be seen in those roles, and what you're doing in and of itself is doing that. And I love that so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Representation is huge. And it's something that I think more people are becoming aware of. And it was so beautiful. Last night I was doing a speaking engagement, and I had a gentleman come up to me with his young little daughter, and she ran up and gave me a hug. And it was so cool because I was chatting with both of them. And he said, I'm so happy that they're hosting something like this, because before, up until recently, I wasn't even aware that my daughter would have needed this or needed to see this. And so it's not just even a movement within, the female population. The males are getting involved too, and recognizing that some patterns of thinking need to be changed, and exposing their young girls to, mentors like this, and how important representation is, and how important it is to expose them to that at a young age. So it's beautiful, and it's so wonderful to have people like you that help and push and share that message. It's very important.
It is so important. I just got goosebumps when you told me that story. I love that the dad was taking her to meet you, and that's incredible. So do you have any pre-race like good luck routines, or like a thing you do the night before or the day of?
Yeah, it's so funny because I feel as though I used to have a lot and was very superstitious, and I've progressively gotten out of that, because you don't want to be attached to certain routines, because what if that routine isn't able to be, rolled out, or your lucky socks got lost on the plane? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So I used to have that. I used to have like a certain way I put my socks on, a certain little time that I would take in my car beforehand. And now it's just kind of, I do have my little things that I do to help me get in the zone. I visualize the track, I visualize what it's going to feel like, and just take a deep breath and get at it. Like, there's not much more to it, right? You just got to go out there and do it. So you can't be held too much to superstitions.
Good for you. I agree with you. I just think it's always so curious, but like you say, you don't want to lose the lucky socks on the plane, but like during traveling, because you do travel so much. So what's next for you? What's the next trip, race? What's next?
Yes. So I actually leave next week. We're heading into our first race weekend at Sonoma Raceway, and our races are April 6th, 7th. And so, yeah, I'm going to be going out there and kickstarting the season. Our team last year won it. And so there's, big shoes to fill. We're excited to go out there, but it's always different coming into every season, because you never know what cars are coming. You never know what BOP or how favorable it'll be to your car at that specific track. So, we're just going out there with an open mind, and just so excited for the new challenges that lie ahead. I think one of the greatest things that I've learned from racing is just constantly challenging myself, and how much I actually love that. I love being challenged. I love seeing where I hold up in certain environments. So Sonoma Raceway, be sure to tune in. They'll be live.
I will. Good for you. That's so exciting. I've actually driven that track too with Hyundai as well.
Oh, so cool. You've done so many cool things.
Yeah, it is. It's super fun. I'm definitely not complaining about my job either, but I love talking to women like you who are like just next level out there, and so inspiring. And I think what you do is amazing, and you're such a great coach and pro driver in the experience I've had with you. So I love both. I love that you're out there racing professionally and also coaching and mentoring and being representing for young girls. And I think that's fantastic. So I thank you so much for spending some time with me. Finally, we got to connect. Oh, is your bunny bunny not?
I'll show you. I'll get a little bit. Come here, Champy.
Champy,
There he is.
The cutest. Oh,
hey, if I give him a treat, he'll stick around. There we go. Come here, Champy. Oh. Don't stick your head in there. So that's Champy.
Adorable.
Oh, no.
Adorable.
Oh, well, he's happy to have made a debut.
Yes. Good luck. I'm so excited
you.
to follow along and just keep engaging with your content. Everybody go follow Demi on Instagram. I love your content. I love what you're doing. And I thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Connie. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
wow. She is so charming and adorable and so such an old soul for being such a young woman.
I completely agree. Yes. And
Yeah.
so energetic and fun. I love her personality and just amazing for, like you say, for being so young and talented.
And I mean, it takes talent to potty train a rabbit, I would think.
Exactly. Right. Who knew? I did not know.
I did not know either, but I think even though rabbits can be potty trained, it still can't be easy to do. I mean, it's not easy to potty train a child or who you could speak to who will even speak back to you.
Yeah.
or a dog.
Dogs, I would have never guessed a bunny, but yeah, I was so happy when she was able to
So funny.
show us the bunny.
I know when you said that, when you first said the when she first said the litter box, I thought, oh, it's a cat. Nope, not a cat.
I know, right? It's so funny.
So funny. So you talked about how you met her.
Yeah.
Tell me, how does she inspire you?
I just think she's amazing in that she seems so fearless. She seems absolutely unafraid and unapologetic for just going for it, which I absolutely adore and admire. What about you? What was your biggest takeaway from our conversation?
I really loved how bold she is and unafraid to talk about the hurdles in the way. And I don't want to say weaknesses or challenges, kind of typical words, but this generation of people, and I know as well, because we're raising them, right? These women in their 20s, they have challenges or they have hurdles in front of them that we didn't really have, or we didn't recognize. And mental health is a big part of that. And she talked a lot about not only the mental health challenges that that generation faces, but how she is proactive about that. And I thought that was really powerful, because anyone who's listening and wondering how she does what she does, the mental health part of it is a big takeaway, that you need to have your head on straight, that you need to take care of yourself, that you need to make sure that you're getting the things that you're getting, because if you don't, it will eat away at your mental health. And I think that's such an important lesson. So I thought she was really bold to talk about that.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And I love that she loves to drive, and that she's focused on what she wants to do and where she's going, and she sees herself as a part of the team. She talked a lot about we, not I,
Yeah.
which I thought was really good. I also love that she, maybe I shouldn't say I love, but it was interesting that she recognizes that we still need more female role models, and that she, in her, she's a young woman. I would think there's more women in racing now than there's ever been. There's more women in automotive and engineering and all these different fields around automotive than there's ever been. And there's still not enough. A woman like her has to search for role models. And I thought that was concerning,
Yeah.
a little sad. I thought we would have made more progress than that by now, but also an opportunity, for more women to become role models and to think about, as you kind of do your job, you go to work, you do your job, you battle your battles. Don't forget that there are women out there who are looking at you and who want to know how they can be like you. And that's important. I think we forget.
And I love that she is that for the younger generation.
Yeah.
She's definitely that.
So do I. Well, thank you for sharing your time with Demi with us. And I'm going to read us out. Thank you all for joining us for What Drives Her, a podcast from A Girl's Guide to Cars, hosted by myself, Scotty Reese, and Connie Peters, produced by Jordan Almond, edited by Stephanie Howard, music by Envato. Thank you for joining us. Please be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our podcasts. Follow along on social media. Check out our content at agirlsguidetocars.com, and we'll see you next time.